right inside. Oh! It'll be up the field. It's on the beauty! Oh! That was uncalled for.
And we have a brawl on the siren.
Pre-season practice, Matt, it's all about getting a bit of touch and a bit of fitness. I was there that day and I saw Setanta sink the slipper in and I thought all hell was going to break loose.
I will never forget that day. Newsrooms around the country were gathering round going, "You should see this footage." I tell you what, it cost him too. It was an expensive kick. 4 weeks all up.
Everyone's wanted to give the umpire some feedback, and they have over the years. They've wanted to do things to the umpire, but no one's done what Phil done. Phil, what are you doing?
Oh, did you see that one? Did you see that one?
Even now, I can't comprehend what happened to Phil when he was on a football field. No doubt he cost Collingwood a premiership in 1977 with a lapse of discipline. And then there was the clash with Carbury, a boundary umpire, in an Essendon St Kilda game at Merrett, which cost him 20 weeks. He comes back and he gets rubbed out in his first game back. End of career.
There's just nothing to kick to at the moment. As Hall off the ball. Hall's, oh! Barry Hall has whacked behind play. That is ridiculous, Barry Hall. He has smacked Staker in the head and he will be reported.
West Coast free kick.
Oh, it was a shocker.
Nobody expects to see a punch like that on a footy field.
It certainly was big bad Barry Hall. He just flattened him. Poor old Brent Staker is one of the nicest guys as well. But I got to tell you, the worst thing about that whole thing, Adam Hunter coming in to remonstrate afterwards, fell over like a feather.
Did well in the clinches to get it to Johnson. His kick's pretty ordinary to Voss. Burns lines him up, goes bang.
Oh, how good was this? Front row seat. I was about 10 metres away. Burns goes through the great Michael Voss and bang, straight back up. Gave it to Simon Blake, who kicked the goal.
Beautiful pick up by Voss to Black. Should have a shot. Great play, Brisbane.
And Michael Voss, the great warrior that he is, straight back into Burns' face saying, "Is that all you got? Is that all you got? You can't stop me."
To see that initially from Scotty Burns, I thought, oh, that's courage. Hitting Michael Voss. Vossy bounces straight up, handballs to Simon Black, goal to the Lions, off they go, and then Vossy back up in the face of Burnsy. Two tough competitors, but what a start to the grand final.
Now, here's a couple you wouldn't want to be on the end of.
Back into the square. Can anyone get a run at it? Brereton waits down, may have to try and sock it. He's hammered over the line.
Woosha getting me on the goal line at Subiaco, just between the goal post and the point post at the left-hand side end of the ground. Can't remember. Didn't happen. No.
Miller had to go again. Bombers circling in numbers. Watson. Handball. Oh, good crunch on Hurd.
Now, for a little bloke, Whelan was a wrecking ball. And what he could do, and what he did there with that hit on Hurd, was that good.
Demolition job on James Hurd, and he's down, and he hasn't got up yet. Will that be a defining moment in the game?
You got to remember, not many people were able to touch the golden boy James Hurd, but I think I was calling with Wolsey that day and called it a demolition job. I looked over at Wolsey, he had the big grin on his face, he certainly improved.
That'll change as the Swans move the ball. It wasn't a great kick from Grundy, set up Lloyd, and he's out to it.
I was commentating that day, and when Reg Grundy dribbled along the ground and it bounced up, just the heart goes into the mouth. You're thinking, oh no, this is trouble. And in the end, Merrett, clean hit, an effective hit.
There's bad bounces and there's the Jake Lloyd bounce. Absolutely got poleaxed by Merrett. I was sitting right there on the boundary line calling that game, and you could hear the smack of flesh. And poor Lloyd, my heart went out to him.
Hale tries to backhand it down. Gee, they've been hard on Hanneberry. That was a big hit. I think it was Roghhead that got him.
What's the worst thing that can happen to you in a grand final? You have to reach up for a ball, completely expose your body, and a train called Jarryd Roghhead runs straight through you. Good luck.
Sometimes players are a team target, and I get the feeling Hanneberry is. Everybody's hitting it.
In this day and age where everything's pretty sanitised for contact, that was as brutal as it gets.
against Noble. They nullify each other. Guerra in hard and fixes up Cameron Ling.
Black toe poked it to his own advantage. Miscommunication between he and Ackermanis. Guerra crunches through Sean Hart. And he's been KO'd for the umpteenth time in his career.
Just another one of those times that Hardy got hit. When he had the helmet on for a reason. He had some massive hits. I think I cleaned him up once at the SCG. Got himself in the wrong spot sometimes and got cleaned up. And once again, when he went down, you just think, oh no, I hope he gets up.
Simpson on all fours. Back to Stevens again. Tried to make a little ground. Did so towards centre wing. Lenny Hayes tries to keep it. Down goes Lenny Hayes, but he picks himself up.
You see Arch coming one way and a first gamer in Lenny Hayes coming the other. It was never going to end well. Arch loves contact like that, full-chested, bang. Didn't you love it?
You're at the SCG, Lenny.
One of the great introductions to AFL, VFL football was Lenny Hayes playing his first game against North Melbourne and introducing himself to a shirt front from the great Glenn Archer. But he got up, he's pushing the trainers back, and you knew early days Lenny Hayes was going to be a great of the game because most first gamers would have stayed down.
He's a tough cookie, this youngster.
Oh, courage by Archer, and gets taken out. About two bulls going at each other, John Worsfold and Glenn Archer. And Woosha, let me tell you, has a little mean streak in him. But Arch, cleaned up, just gets up, dusts himself off, business as usual.
Good, confident stuff. Not such a great placement. Rioli did okay and might get a reward here.
Matty Lloyd has absolutely crunched Chad Corns,
who, like Mike Tyson, is picking himself up very slowly. Since he had 25 possessions last week, Jonathan Brown, a career high. Up to the wing, Lappin will have to come from behind. Played the role of the defender. Oh, Joel Corey. Michael Voss has cleaned him up.
Shoulder. This is a very underrated hit. It only took him 2 steps, but Michael Voss had such good power, and if you actually touched him, it was like touching a piece of granite. It was that hard. Joel Corey would still remember that day, that's for sure. I think he had a broken collarbone at the end of that.
Michael Voss was a serious wrecking ball. He was the toughest player that I've arguably played against. And he hit Joel Corey one day, and I reckon Joel done a 360 in the air, landed flat on his face, popped his shoulder. He was out for the rest of the season, I think.
He's been taken straight off the ground on the other side, and that means that he's out of the game.
I bet you Brownie enjoyed talking about this one. He kicked it, didn't he?
Wilson, the rover. And he's had half a dozen kicks and been a fine player. Jess knocking the ball out of his grasp. Oh, Wilson, strong play! Has played Jess out like a log. It was perfectly fair.
Wow. Gary Wilson was one of the greatest players ever to have played the game. He wasn't the biggest bloke. One of the most skillful. And he actually could deliver a bump better than most, weight for age.
It's worth noting that Gary Wilson was the bloke that kicked that, so he's kicked it and followed it up. And you've got to remember, Flea's about 65 kilos ringing wet, and he's hit that goes straight down the middle. And it's a sickening blow.
And that was one of the biggest hits.
Well played, Brent. A good long hand pass gives the option to Eade. Eade goes careering downfield. Matthew Shepherd's brilliantly. Eade shoots for goal, and Matthew Shepherd was a brilliant one.
Yeah, back in my first game, Lee Matthews, he ran through. I saw him whiz past. And Gomez, Andy Demetrio's a good mate. Lee ran into him. And if you could imagine you've got a sack full of old bones, you know, from the butcher, and hit it with a baseball bat and you hear them crack and snap, that's what it sounded like. It's just awful.
The former CEO of the AFL, Andy Demetriou, was chasing Rodney Eade. I don't think anyone in the whole MCG was ready for what happened because Lee Matthews, as we know, he's a freight train, and he copped the right full whack of Lee Matthews' shirt front, and Andy, how he got up, we'll never know.
Chance for McVeigh, gains about 5 metres. Sewell hit hard by Lloyd, and Sewell is out.
They're going to be angry.
Oh, here we go.
They are going to be angry at the Hawks.
Yeah, Lloydie was like a snorting bull coming off the centre square line. He had Sully in the crosshairs, that's for sure, and just got him straight up the middle and fair to say there's a fair rivalry between those two clubs, so things escalated after that.
And I tell you what, Matty Lloyd, you're the target.
It was old school footy. We hadn't seen anything like it for years, and I tell you what, it went nuts in the media.
Brad Sewell's the worry, and he's as tough as they come, Brad Sewell. Eyes for the footy, and he's been cleaned up by Matthew Lloyd.
I tell you what, Matthew Lloyd will be lucky to get through this game the way the Hawks are looking at the moment.
So from 2009, we rewind 20 years back to 1989.
Everyone remembers the 89 grand final for Gary Ablett, 9 goals, but he did a bit of damage away from the ball as well. What about Dipper?
There's no doubt it was one of the toughest grand finals in the modern era. Dipper played the entire game. Immediately after he left the ground, he was rushed to St Vincent's. They found that he suffered not only broken ribs, but a punctured lung.
Now, just 2 weeks earlier, it was the Hawks doing the enforcing.
Oh, some strong play by all the... Brereton is ironed out with a hip and shoulder.
Vander was a very fair player, ball player, and Dermott wasn't. And it was as simple as this. Dermott had murderous intent in his eyes. And of course, it gave us a story for the rest of the week because Paul Vander Haar later on got reported and they had the free Paul Vander Haar. They even had stickers, Paul Vander Haar is innocent. And they changed the rules after that if you got knocked out, you couldn't go back on and complain about getting rubbed out because Vander had no idea what was going on. So that bump literally shook the football world.
Of all the bumps I gave out, I feel sorriest about the one to Vander. He was a good bloke. Oh, he's kind of too good a bloke to play for Essendon, actually.
First to get to Montgomery, just scrubs the kick. Big Shepherd off the ball. And I reckon Biglands is in trouble.
It's not very often that you're actually happy when your own player gets knocked out, but for our ruckman, Rhett Biglands, who thinks he's pretty tough, I was quite happy for Byron Pickett to do a number on him. I made out I wasn't at the time, but gee, have we given him some curry since.
I reckon he's been picked off by Pickett. It was slightly on my line of sight, but I think it was Byron Pickett who has cleaned up Biglands. And Byron might have claimed another one.
Didn't matter whether you were big or small. Byron had you in the scope, you were gone. Bad luck, Rhett.
I was right there, so I had to stand up for him and just said to Choppy, that was a bit nasty, Choppy, but we had the last laugh. I think we had a record margin win by about 80 points and we didn't win the flag, but we got close that year.
He drew Armfield and worked him hard. And that's Saul Simpson. That's courageous. He's been absolutely poleaxed.
You can see Simo trying to get up after this one, but seriously, no one gets up after that.
Kickball. Had to wait for the traffic to catch up. Silvani kept on going. Oh, Melbourne has collected another one. Oh dear, that does not look good.
Geelong were getting smashed and you got Carlton's favourite son, Stephen Silvani, the love of everyone there at Princes Park, and then all of a sudden this Darren Milburn, who no one knew much about at this stage, bang, he's just got him, and you could tell there was trouble in the air straight away.
Incredibly, Milburn was stirring up the crowd as he left the ground, clapping them, saying thank you very much. It's a wonder he didn't start a riot.
I don't think I've ever experienced such hatred at the footy as that day, and seeing the Carlton supporters and the way they were behind the player interchange area, just giving it to Darren Milburn, it was a spooky, eerie feeling, and you actually were worried that Darren Milburn was going to get out of that stadium alive at the end of the day.
The Carlton runners having to go at him too, the Carlton supporters having to go at him. He'd do best to just sit down and shut up.
Milburn needed police protection both to get from the ground and to his car. Carlton fans wanted blood, and you couldn't blame them.
Perhaps a message for Darren, if you are going to have a crack at Steve Silvani, don't do it at Princes Park.
Free kick, Martin, the handball, didn't need to play on there. He had Robinson right there with him, but he keeps going. He has flattened Steph and Martin. They play on the Brisbane Lions. Perfect example of a slow motion train wreck. Steph Martin coming one way, Stephen May the other. Kaboom. It was two big blokes steaming from opposite directions. There was a bit of velocity.
Yeah. Oh, I was in the commentary box that night. Steph Martin, who's pretty quick, and Stevie May, who's got a lot of power. They clashed like two freight trains coming together, and I think Stevie May might have had a bit of help from his captain, Gary Ablett. Great captaincy.
Who has one? He's got a chance to have 3 or 4 bounces here. A third. Oh, great shepherd from Gian Syracuse. Put Kaczynski down. They're both down.
Fair to say, Big Cozzy had tunnel vision. He only saw one thing. He didn't have great periphery and was best exemplified with Daniel Duran Syracuse, who's about 70 kilos, dripping wet, and absolutely poleaxe Cozzy. Till this day, I don't think he'd ever see him coming.
It was a wonderful shepherd there from Gian Syracuse.
He's out cold, has not moved.
Kaczynski is out.
Oh, we all remember this, and look, you could just see it unfolding from a fair way out. Cozzy was just head down, chasing, and G has just timed it perfectly.
Cozzy was diagnosed with a fractured skull after that, and then famously fainted on television 6 weeks later. It was scary stuff.
He can get through that, and he'll get through it, and he'll get through it today.
Kicks it. Not the best of kicks for Duncan.
Oh, the big mummified.
By golly, Derm! I don't know who was more excited about it, Derm next to me or Shane Mumford that he'd got another victim, but when Shane Mumford gets you, there is no getting up.
There's a freight train coming.
He's pancaked him. Oh, when Mummy ran into Mitch Dunk. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't laugh because the boy got hurt. But I said he got pancaked. Well, you know, a pancake starts all fluffy and that in the jar, and you drop it and it just spreads and splatters, and it's just on the floor and it doesn't move. And it turns to just spread liquid. Unfortunately, that's what happened to Mitch Duncan.
Yates came off the wing and went straight for Dermott. Brereton.
Talk about premeditated. Mark Yates coming off the line and absolutely steamrolling Dermott Brereton, and the hit was pure.
Yates came through the centre, didn't have eyes for the ball, just went straight at Brereton and has put him down.
When we speak about the folklore of grand finals, no one deserves a spot when the ultimate story is written more than Dermott Brereton. Getting up after being targeted, after being savagely taken out, it was a mighty performance.
Right there with him, Mark Graham, his new opponent. Help from Crummell. Off the ground he goes. Oh! Byron Pickett, he loves that. He's out like a lot. Byron lined him up and went bang.
I suppose when it happened, I mean, you knew it was big, but not as big as it became. It became one of the real big moments in terms of what was fair and what wasn't. Byron Pickett, he just smashed into blokes, and poor old Brendan Crummell. I'm not sure how good those lights were out at Waverley in those days, but he stayed hit.
I didn't think he was going to get up. I thought that was the end of Brendan Crummell. That is as pure a hit as you will ever see.
This will go down as probably one of the top 5 classic hits of all time. Poor old Jezza. 1 minute it's Jezzalenko, you beauty. Next minute he's seeing stars.
Magro got him a beauty.
When Stan Magro hit Alex Jezzalenko, I thought he was dead. Some commentators suggested he didn't mean to do it. Please, give me a spell.
I mean, you couldn't have got somebody better set up, down low, etc. I think it's one of the hardest hits probably the game has ever seen, and I think he was in bad shape for some time.
Well, Burgoyne's a question mark, isn't he? But you're right. If they can get him fit and playing well, suddenly it looks impressive. Oh, Lewis has not moved.
Never once took his eyes off the ball, Louis. As gutsy as you'll ever see. A knock like that can knock you back to your childhood. I suppose that's why after the game he drove back to Warrnambool instead of Hawthorn.
I said the other night, it's a primitive game sometimes. Not many sports in the world where you see that sort of courage. In fact, I can't think of a one.
There's not one, Dennis.
Remarkably, he never missed a game. He played the following week and the rest of the season.
Well, the
Eagles last week, made a great start against Melbourne and kicked 7 goals in the first quarter. So the start here is vital. Carlton go forward out of the middle. Oh, a collision. Oh, and McKenna is down.
Hard deck at Subiaco, and Guy McKenna just couldn't get a handle on the ball, and Big Earl Sporting, they have to be 105 kilos, just like a freight train, just straight through. And once again, you think, oh no, that's not good.
Oh, I remember that one. Top of the table clash over in WA. Always hard to win over there. So when you travelled over there, you wanted to try and rough him up a little bit. Earl Sporting just lined him up, and the ball didn't bounce for him. And when he looked up a little bit, it was too late, and his lights went out. It was a great hit.
It was one of those just beautifully timed hits, and Guy McKenna was a pure ball player in that instance, got himself in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and Earl decided to take him out. And I thought McKenna would never play another game of football after that. I did happen to say to Earl after the game, that was the best hit at that point I can remember. And his reply was, just like a sweet cover drive.
Smart. Jamison on hands and knees. Give it across the Cousins. It kept playing. Down they go from Rashuda.
Mark Rashuda, our Roo, decided to give himself a 21st birthday present by knocking poor old Dean Kemp into the next universe. Oh, Roo, disgraceful. You never go out on a footy field to hurt anyone, but when the opportunity presents itself, sometimes you have to take it. And Dean was there. He didn't see me coming. I think I only took one step. And looking back at it, I hit him in the head, but it was okay then. It wasn't even a free kick. It was play on. These days you would have got 8 weeks and it would have been a thug. So, I caught up with Kempy a couple of times, and he's always been good about it, but I think that's because he can't remember it.
Free kick. He doesn't waste any time. He gets it down, approaching. Oh, Richardson! That bump was by Voss. And Alan Richardson, on his 31st birthday, is in a lot of strife.
For all of Michael Voss's favourite achievements, this one might be his best.
He gets it down, approaching. Oh, Richardson! That bump was by Voss.
But just look closely in the background too. The great Wally Lewis, State of Origin hard man for Queensland, did not bat an eyelid.
That's by far the biggest hit that I've ever seen.